The series now shows the defenders and civilian population of Jhansi sliding into starvation, and in their own comical way, but give me the British reaction to it any time, which is piling into the fried chicken and wine and making sure of really rubbing it in. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but Hugh Rose kicks butt. But it's all bullshit. The city didn't fall because of starvation, it fell because the British realised that they were running low on ammunition as they bombarded it for a few days and launched a storm. And they took it even though their ladders were too short for the walls, because this was one of the few times in all of history that the British went to war baying for blood. That means no dorks like this, none of this, and plenty of what you're looking at here. For make no mistake, they committed terrible atrocities, often massacring civilians just along the march route. Mutineers, or soldiers who struck them as probably being mutineers, were hanged or blown away from cannon muzzles. And as for the civilian population, well, many civilians had actively assisted in the rape and murder of British civilians in 1857, including people in the personal protection of the Rani of Jhansi in her capital city at the time. First Indian War of Independence, my ass. That's the narrative that is taking over today, yet I'm going to tell you the elephant in the room, pun not intended, that no one ever talks about. And that is life under mutineer rule. Life under the mutineer rule for a few months was intolerable. Ask yourself, would you like to be ruled by armed thugs who are totally in it for themselves and have zero interest in public amenities, public order, punishing crime, and when lots of thugs, pardon the pun, join in the looting and raping in the certainty that there will be no getting caught or punished? Would you like that? And would you prefer it over the succession rules of your monarch being changed by the British? I mean, big shit. So under corporation rule, your monarchs are puppets. Ooh, like that totally doesn't happen when you're ruled by a gang of bandits so well trained and armed that the only thing on earth that could beat them is, hey, the British Army. There's a thought. But the British blew their chance to come as liberators by behaving more like a Mongol horde of old. True, the tales of mutineer atrocities had not been verified, but it was not an age of instant mass communications yet. But before the British could storm Jhansi, a large relief army approached to foil them. 20,000 men under the command of a childhood friend of the Rani, Tantia Tope. But today, his heirs are languishing in squalor and anonymity. Good. Fuck him. He was a war criminal who committed this here massacre in the water at Cawnpore, the one act of the many that the British used above all as a rallying cry for revenge. And a rare good costuming feat by this show, as this old picture attests. But he didn't look like a male nurse when he was on campaign. Indeed, here he is when he was captured and executed a year later. And here's his army. His 20,000 men outnumbered Hugh Rose's besieging army by 5 to 1. Although please note that a Pakistani former tanks major has pooh-poohed this in this paper, on the grounds that British losses were triflingly low. That's only one way to put such facts together, isn't it? Perhaps instead, looting and raping make poor motivators for going up against a mighty army of men that fight back. But Topi wasn't slashing at pitiful refugees in the water this time. Hugh Rose learned a relief army was coming at his siege lines around Jhansi and personally led half of his little 4,000-man army off to face down Topi's relief army at the April Fool's Day Battle of the Betwa River. 2,000 men hammered 20,000, slaying 1,500 of them and capturing a huge haul of heavy artillery trophy pieces, gunpowder and elephants. Elephants are cool too, it must be noted. And 2 of the brand spanking new Victoria Cross medals were won at the battle, instituted for the recent war in Russia, and Hugh Rose had fought in that war too, by the way. But that's not how they show the Battle of the Betwa in this show, not a chance. They're strolling through the woods. No one's ever heard of elephants or camels, and they run into a dorky squad of British troops. His sole achievement is a cool blade flash. And with all the tactical flair of stampeding oxen, they disperse into the trees for, reasons. Oh, because the British are hiding in the trees. Come on, men, flash harder! And suddenly the British are capable of inspired aggression. They've got martial arts now. We're fucked. Presenting Dopey Topi. There's a what behind me? My God, the things you learn about British tactics in this show. You won't find this one in the Osprey books. Look at this crap. If anything, they've gotten their tactical knowledge from Dave Allen sketches. Notice a line pre-traced in the dirt so these bovine extras will know when to stop. Look at this. If those men fire, they will go down wholesale. They'd go down like a... Oh, hi, Megan. Bizarrely, Hugh Rose is not leading this army. I mean, fuck history. Instead, this show comes up with a completely fictitious gay homo cock magnet named Captain Fraser.
Come on, man, let's go. Let's go, motherfucker. All right, come on. You niggas gonna fight or fuck? Let's go.
Just be thankful that's his right hand, because his left hand looks like this.
Oh, God.
And when you think of all the self-praise the makers of this show heaped on themselves about their historical accuracy commitment, whatever you do, dude, don't let him see you like this, war criminal.
So strong.
The unspoken nobility of our comradeship.
Trademark plan.
I'm guessing these men here like really hot sensations on the nape of their neck. And let's hope he does too. We know him to be the bad guy by his home entertainment suite, Indian men being whipped. And by his hero from a Marquis de Sade novel level of unaccountable, bloodlusting, thrill-killing. I wonder where they ripped off that idea from for their fictitious character.
I hate blood.
Or did they get it from the infamous Lollywood hate propaganda against Salman Rushdie, International Gorillas? Where, by the way, gorillas is spelt like the animal, not like the irregular soldier. If you were considered to look like Salman Rushdie enough to play him in a movie in 1990, would you really hang around in Pakistan?
I hate blood.
Oh God, his facial expressions alone should get this show an X rating.
hate blood.
So, that was the Battle of the Betois River.
Very strong. I do like you.
Just let me have a little feel.
By the way, there was no 22nd Regiment in this campaign. Not British, not Indian. Indeed, the 22nd Regiment of Bengal Native Infantry had mutinied. It was on the enemy's side. There are times when it feels a pity that this simpering sodomite is fictitious because he's capable of being very cool indeed. Like when he's teasing the Rani having just arrived in her fortress when she was expecting a relief army, and he he kicks the distinctive turban of her childhood playmate Tantia Topi to her.
Tatya Tope. Tatya Tope. He's dead. Tatya Tope. Dead. He was a real man. A real masculine man. Long live Queen
Whoa, I
Victoria.
do like this bit. Well done. Even giving a mundane order, he
Fire!
chews up the scenery. And to showcase who's the real queen, he even takes an explosive mortar shell and shot puts it at the Rani's lovely fortress gate. Now that is what they call in acting chewing up the scenery. Historically, what happened when the British stormed Jhansi was quite a few hours of street fighting continuing, which in its own typical way this show does by regurgitating used footage of boring sword fighting and showing British unable to pull their triggers when they've got prime targets in the sights. But then the Rani of Jhansi escaped during the night, and having zero compunction about recklessly endangering the toddler who was her adopted son, she put him on her back and made her way out, according to legend, over the top of the battlements, on horseback. If it's true, then she would have landed on a downward sloping grassy area about 20 feet below, like what you're seeing here, and presumably switched to another horse really rather urgently. Another story is that agents secretly let her out the gate, which would be a lot kinder on a horse and a toddler, but we don't know which one is true. Either way, I take my hat off to an authentic badass. Yet this show ludicrously shows her escaping in broad daylight through a gauntlet of British troops who don't shoot. How generous of them.
Don't fire!
Wasn't that order a bit superfluous? That's like telling dog crap, don't smell good. But no, she does make several more impassioned speeches, each more predictable than the last, on her escape route in broad daylight through legions of soldiers. And oh my god, they remembered you can point those things if you try. Anyway, yeah. They can even fire them so long as it's civilians in the back. Yeah, did you spot who the baddies are yet? It's kind of, well, subtle, isn't it? Can you even imagine doing something so evil as going into combat with a toddler strapped to your back? She can't complain she didn't get a good press for this outrage. And sadly, the dirty traitor gets killed in this sequence. He's just as fictitious as that faggy British officer, so we won't miss him. Did you notice she slashed him across the chest and his head went flying off? This is crap. And in some consolation at least, the market-researched Bollywood heartthrob gets riddled with bullets. Good riddance, girly man. Yes, lady, that's another terrible risk you've subjected your child to by taking him into combat like, have you noticed, 99.99% of warriors ever didn't do? And now comes her rendezvous with destiny. A third possibility I should have mentioned is that agents helped her escape by wrapping long girth straps around the horse and lowering it down off the wall silently with its passengers. And our gay British officer has got to continue chewing up the scenery in the most comic opera fashion imaginable. So, viewers, now we're done with that god-awful Siege of Jhansi sequence from that bubbling hot mess of a TV show. There's loose ends to tie up. Let's start with the where are they now bit. The great lady fled next to Kalpi, which had also mutinied. But Hugh Rose was one relentless pursuer, and soon the mutineer army was smashed again in the field, and the city taken. She and Tantia Tope then fled to Gwalior with its head-fuckingly awesome fortress, and the Maharaja, who was loyal to Britain, came out to fight. They defeated him, and he fled to the British. That's right, folks, she did win a battle, admittedly against other Indians. Then she came out to fight Hugh Rose in the open field, and at the Battle of Kota Ki Sarai, she was killed by British cavalry. If you're wondering what happened to that boy, Damodar Rao, who was strapped to her back, the worst thing you could do would be to watch this fucking show's version of it. Here is a graphic and harrowing child abuse scene where they force the child to walk on broken glass. I've carefully cut out the graphic blood footprints he's making. And have you spotted the good guys yet? It's way too subtle for me to figure it out. And it's total bullshit. He was never kidnapped by the British. And why on earth have the British kidnapped and tied up some European women? What the... Yeah, well, happily they've got the Rani to liberate them.
Oh, thank you. They made us listen to a crappy ska band. Welcome to the house of fun. Now I've come of age. Welcome to...
This is all in episode 439, and I must stress it never fucking happened. And in another complete goat rodeo typical of this series, they fired their one-shot weapons and they continue to hold him hostage with weapons she must know they can't fire. Fuck. Now for the reality. After she was killed, her loyal maidservant sneaked away with the boy into the bush, held on to him for 2 years before surrendering him to the British, who gave him a pension and let him live out his life with servants too, and it was only the later independent India that started discriminating against his descendants.
Mr. Gandhi, what do you think of Western civilization?
I think it would be a very good idea.
That's right, folks. The only child abuse that he suffered was from the Rani herself, carrying him into hailstorms of hot lead. Slanderous as that fiction was, what follows is downright obscene and sadistic. Hamilton, that's his name, makes his flight on horseback, but the Rani needs another fix of endangering her boy. She lassoes him, and then her inner circle actually hang him and slash at his living body repeatedly, watched by a distant Hugh Rose and the child, until the Rani bodies him. Yeah, that should be a word. Then this proto-Manson family set him on fire, even though woolen cloth doesn't fucking burn. Now for the reality. Hamilton posted her death notice. Yes, he didn't look like something out of Slade in the early 70s, and this is his description of her death and funeral. She went on to undisputed membership of the revered pantheon of independence heroes. Although there are those who fully deserve that accolade, like that uncommon hero Mahatma Gandhi, ironically being much dumped on these days by many of today's Indian youth for reasons too silly to detract from his great sacrifices to free his country. There is also disturbing denialism of the ones who were psychopathic war criminals and uninterested in independence, didn't even know what it meant. In fact, wanted to get their country dependent on the alien Islamic Mughal Empire again. By the way, having successfully quelled the Indian Mutiny in 1859, the British then freed India from both the Mughal Empire of Delhi and the voracious corporation of the East India Company within a year. That children's primer again. Notice how, thousands of women. And did heroes capture the city or not? It's more insidiously, this one whitewashes the Cawnpore massacre. He even killed the survivors, sending a hard-hitting message to the British camp. Oh my God, you really said that. Let's illustrate how disgusting this is with another vicious criminal, Reginald Dyer, who committed the Amritsar massacre of 1919. What's it look like when you subject him to the same whitewashing? In World War II, the Nazi regime recruited a force of Indian men who really wanted to fight, being mostly the warlike Sikhs, but got treated as a showpiece and only ever fought off French resistance ambushes and German women, much to the dismay of the Nazi regime with its race defilement laws. No denying they got to wear cool uniforms, but those who joined the Japanese Indian Legion had to make do with looking like sacks of potatoes wrapped in webbing. This Indian National Army actually did go to war on the offensive and on Indian soil, where they got badly mauled in the horrific battles of Kohima and Imphal. Did these fuckwits really believe that Japan was going to treat liberated India any better than it treated the other nationalities of Asia it had captured? Well, this is how it was treating their fellow Indian soldiers. Look at this. It is to be hoped that their high desertion and surrender rates were due to joining in the first place in the hope of getting out of Japanese captivity and over to the British. Thousands of Indian POWs were shipped to New Guinea and worked to death. Here are their survivors pointing out the worst Japanese to their Australian liberators. But the Indian National Army had a female unit, the Rani of Jhansi Regiment, and it was recruited largely in Singapore and sent to that invasion of India only to miss out and during the long retreat get combat when they were attacked by their erstwhile colleagues, the Burmese collaborationist army of Aung San, much celebrated nowadays in his disappointing train wreck of a country and in his disappointing train wreck of a daughter. Yes, Aung San, who gave up on the Japanese when he saw they were obviously losing and attacked the Rani of Jhansi regiment to curry favour with the British. Fun fact, in Singapore you can see the monument to the monument to the Indian National Army. Yes, that was twice, because in 1945 the British destroyed it, and there's a monument to where it used to be. Moving along with the Where Are They Now theme, Hugh rose. He went on to be made Lieutenant General. Then he became Commander-in-Chief of the Bombay Army. Then they appointed him Commander-in-Chief of all of India. He is currently God Emperor of the Galaxy, Hugh IV. So why did the Indian Mutiny happen in the first place, you ask? Because many of the Indian soldiers serving the East India Company fell for a silly conspiracy theory. The company was re-equipping the soldiery with a new gun, a percussion cap rifle which was a cutting-edge war winner that had wrought havoc on the Russian armies recently. It was farewell to the venerable old flintlock smoothbores, for the new guns could shoot accurately to 4 times as far. And that should be all the explanation you need why heroes smashed the mutineer armies of Tantia Topi with only trifling British losses. I do wish I could patiently explain that to Aga Amin. Here's a slightly later Confederate example. Now it may have that high-tech new mechanism, a nipple, but it's still loaded down the business end. Here is the problematic so-called English cartridge. Note the grease smeared on one end. Surviving original examples. Now, to load it, the soldier must bite or tear off one end of the paper. Pour the gunpowder into the muzzle, then push the rest of the cartridge, which contains a lead bullet, into the muzzle and ram down. This will go much more smoothly if the end of it is greased. But what was the grease? These guys got to thinking it was whatever their religion reviled, whatever gave their chosen conspiracy theory plot armor. The Hindu soldiers claimed the grease was yummy, succulent beef fat, while the Muslim soldiers claimed it was delicious, nutritious pork fat.
सर कारतूस पे जो ग्रीस लगा है वो गाय और सूअर की चर्बी से बना है। गाय हिंदुओं के लिए पवित्र है सर, और सूअर मुसलमानों के लिए हराम। ऐसे कारतूस को हम छू भी नहीं सकते सर, हमारा धर्म भ्रष्ट हो जाएगा।
ये तुमसे किसने कहा? ऐसा कोई कारतूस नहीं है और ऐसा कोई कारतूस नहीं होगा। Dismiss.
And thus, in the early stages, cool heads prevailed, but it got steadily darker. The British assured the soldiers that no pig or beef products would be going into their mouths. But when the soldiers remained intransigent, the British bent over backwards for them, offering them money to go buy the components for themselves and make up the cartridges by themselves under supervision of their priests. You'd need to have rocks in your head to think that is unreasonable. These fuckwits had rocks in their heads. They moved the goalposts and said that people might think we have put forbidden animal products in our mouths. Then they even rejected the old cartridges that didn't have any suspicious grease on them at all, thus giving these fuckwits all the battlefield application of those chicks in red china with the weaponized come fuck me boots and goose stepping. They would be about as useful as Linda Lovelace with her mouth shut. And then the mask slipped, and they spoke openly of a British conspiracy to force them all to become Christians. And now, to answer the question on all your lips by now, were they right about the grease? The answer is, we don't know and never will know.
Damn it, we can't.
You see, the cartridges job was contracted out to Indian businesses, which did not record what type of fat they used. The British didn't seek to record it either, because the end you bite is not the greased end, although the grease did smear in the heat. Half a world away, Britain's authoritative Woolwich arsenal was churning out the cartridges for the weapon, but for issue to British troops, they didn't concern themselves very much with what animal went into the tallow. The obvious solution would have been to issue mutton greased, or failing that, pork greased to Hindus and beef greased to Muslims. But the hot winds of an Indian summer were blowing by now. Better yet, buy fuck tons of mutton fat and get the soldiery to make their own ammo. But they were not being reasonable anymore. The discipline and punishments began. The acts of rebellion like arson began too, and soon murderous mutiny on the parade ground, followed by wholesale molesting of European civilians, became the order of the day. Well, that's it. We've reached the vinegar stroke, folks. Thank you for watching this far. You do me much honour. Please, let's talk about your opinion of Gandhi and about the Rani of Jhansi in the comments. I'd love to. Good night from the Jaguar Knight.